We're here today to talk about starters, sourdough starters. Now, there's a great deal of misconceptions about sourdough. One is that you have to feed it a lot. No. This is going to be a very simple way of making your own sourdough with yeast bacteria from your area. Now, what could be better than have your own regional specific sourdough? Yes, you can buy sourdoughs on the web that are purport to be from the San Francisco 49ers, and for all I know go back to ancient Egypt. But as good as those may be, nothing beats the ability to say, this is my sourdough starter from my own area. The reason we can do this is that yeast bacteria are in the air wherever you are. I'm breathing in yeast bacteria right now, so that's not the issue. The issue is to capture the yeast bacteria in a mixture that will allow it to grow and ferment and create our sourdough. Think of the sourdough starter as a field. We're going to be preparing a base of water. The water is the soil. We're going to be adding salt and sugar, both of which act as fertilizers. The crop is the yeast bacteria, which will basically be coming out of the air, laying onto the soil, and growing. We'll know this is happening. It'll take several days when we see bubbles forming on top of our watery, yeasty field. So let's get started. First of all, we're going to be using a gallon of water. Now, for those of you who are going to be cooking at home and using your bread machine, you're going to have to scale this down to the proportions that you need. But I'm talking about baking in a bake oven. We're going to be making many, many loaves of bread, so we need a large amount of starter. We're going to start with 1 gallon of water. We're going to put it on the stove, start to boil, and then we'll get to our potatoes, because the basis for our starter is going to be potatoes. We're basically going to be making potato soup. So the water that I mentioned earlier is not just plain water. It's actually a mashed potato soup that is the soil for our yeast bacteria to grow in. So let's get started. 1 gallon of water. Half gallon. Full gallon. We're going to cover that. We're going to start the stove going. Now, while that water is heating up to a boil, we're going to take 3 medium-sized potatoes and we're going to peel them. Trying not to peel our fingers in the process. You can use any kind of potatoes. These are simply local white potatoes that we got out of the field. When you see me using a specific tool, such as this KitchenAid potato peeler, I don't do it because I'm being paid, believe me. I do it because I like it and it works well. So, now we have, it's just like Julia Child. Hold on for a second. We're going to wash that baby right off. Let nothing go to waste. There we go, 1 clean potato. Remember, when you're cooking for yourself and you're cooking at home, you can do anything you want. Now, we're going to take a knife, we're going to chop up the potatoes, into smaller sections so they'll cook faster. Having never gone to cooking school, I don't have all the fancy chopping techniques. Be that as it may. As long as my finger's not left on the board, I feel we're doing okay. Now we're going to put the 3 potatoes into the water that's heating. We're going to let it come to a boil. We're going to cook them well until they're soft and easy to mash, just as if you were making mashed potatoes. And then we'll continue with the next stage in the starter. The potatoes are boiling and they're cooked. What we're going to do now is we're going to strain the potatoes, keep the potato water, mash potatoes, put them back in the potato water. We'll add the sugar and the salt, and then we'll store everything in a crock for 3 days, more or less, until the yeast bacteria falls into the starter and starts to bubble. So, we're going to take the potatoes over here. We're going to strain out the potato water. I'm going to take a crock, though you can use any type of bowl. I'm going to put the potatoes into the crock. Take my potato stomper or masher. We're going to mash them up. These potato stompers are ubiquitous at farm sales around here, which just shows how many mashed potatoes they made in the course of a year. Once they're mashed up, we're going to put a little bit of water back into them just to prepare a gruel. And to get it as smooth as possible. You can always strain out the lumps of the potatoes if you want later on by trying and get the potato gruel as smooth as possible so there really are very few lumps to begin with. And anyway, if you bake the lumps into the bread, people get real excited because then they know that it truly is a potato-based sourdough. All right, the potato gruel is ready. We're going to go ahead and add a tablespoon of salt. Again, this is the half, actually, of the fertilizer for our crop. Then we're going to take 1/4 cup of sugar. I have a 5-gallon large can of sugar over here. You pour that in. I'm going off camera to get a wooden spoon. We're going to stir it up. Again, the sugar and the salt act as fertilizers. The potato soup is the soil or the field. I'm going to pour in enough potato water to fill the crock. We're going to go all the way. This is a 1-gallon crock. Stir it up one more time. And there you have it. This starter is going to be set aside in the kitchen, uncovered, for at least 3 days. We're going to check it on camera each day to see how it's progressing. At the end of 3 days, we'll see if we have life or not in here, because what we're doing is creating life. The whole idea of bread baking, of course, is you create life, you create the bacteria growing, and then you kill all those little suckers to make your bread. So we're going to set this aside for now. It'll cool off, but it will act as a magnet, we hope, as the yeast bacteria literally falls onto, or lands actually, onto the potato soup, the potato gruel here. We'll see what luck we have in snaring it and bringing them to life.